Bonjour Madame la Présidente. Donc, merci d'avoir patienté. Je donne la parole à Madame Monique Brodeur, présidente du Conseil supérieur de l'éducation du Québec. À vous la parole, Madame la Présidente.
Merci beaucoup. Bonjour, Monsieur le Président du Conseil supérieur de l'éducation du Maroc, Monsieur El Malki, Monsieur
Mr. El Malki, Mr. Representative of UNESCO, Mr. Falt, dear participants, dear organizers, thank you for inviting me to be part of this meeting. 6 months ago, I was in that room with you. I'm happy to be part of the meetings again, even if it's only virtually. So you're talking about very important challenges, talking about digital and trying to find solutions for the digital transformation that is balanced and supports your objectives. I will briefly share with you some components of the work we do in Quebec. I have shared with you in Rabat last spring the report of the Higher Education Council on technology and the impact of artificial intelligence in higher education, especially with ChatGPT. That was the reason of a lot of concern in universities throughout the world. There are 5 main results that came out of this report that I hope will contribute to your reflection, and I'm sure you had already talked about it. The first component is the importance of being in line pedagogically. So we have to see in which measure it will contribute to the activities, to the education activities, and also to the evaluation modalities contribute to the targeted objectives. The second point, it is necessary to have the intellectual and academic integrity, because with the digital growth, there is a lot of concern from the faculty staff. And this is something that's covered by our council, by the commission, and we underline the importance of having a common responsibility in building an environment where trust is the most important, because if we work in all trust, that's the best way to move forward. The third point is to have a continuous development of digital competencies, and this is something that have to be done throughout life and throughout school. So from the time students join school in Quebec from the age of 4, they start developing these digital competencies. But also after you graduate and you start working, all citizens at all ages need to have those competencies strengthened. And there is next point, which is critical, is to allow all stakeholders who use digital to be sure of the quality and integrity of the information. And finally, we have the impression that we're talking about a cloud, about an IT cloud, that there is no challenge in terms of energy. However, in a report of the Commission in Quebec that I encourage you to find out about, shows that it is important to be aware of the climate impact of digital or energy impact, and be more sober. And I would like to conclude by saying that the work we have done in our commission at the council, the main recommendation was to establish a national consultation instance or for the digital in higher education. We published our report in April 2024, and we were really pleased in August 2024 to hear the Minister of Higher Education of Quebec, Mrs. Pascal, launch and establish this instance. And in September, they had their first meeting, and it's about 40 people that will be in charge, that have for objective to develop a common vision and develop principles for responsible, ethical, sustainable use of artificial intelligence to contribute to establish the strategies for artificial intelligence to facilitate the exchange between the ministry and the whole network, but also to contribute to the development and implementation of different initiatives in artificial intelligence or in the digital world. So by looking at the work that is done in Quebec, but also the work that you are doing, one of the main components is development of digital competency throughout life. Here we would like to underline and combine the work of UNESCO with the Digital Week and the launch of two competency referentials, one for the teachers and one for the students. And currently, the Higher Council is translating these two referentials into French. And after that, each country can develop its own referentials for students and for their teachers, and in order to strengthen the digital competency of people. So this is one of the main specifications of the referentials, because they have to evolve with the new digital and technological development. So they will be continuously evolving. Thank you. So thank you very much, Mrs. President, for having waited for a while today. It's always a pleasure. So thank you, Mrs. President, and it will be a pleasure to have you amongst us again very soon. Without any further ado, now we will move to the restitution of the work of the three groups for the solutions, and then we'll give the floor to UNESCO and to the President for the closing remarks. So, Mr. Munir Khadiri, so what are the solutions for the first group? So here we're talking about 6 pillars. Thank you, Mr. President of the Council, Mrs. President of the Higher Education Council of Quebec, honorable audience. So following up the work we did on the first part, our group 1, did discuss the common challenges that were identified, which are coordination and consultation, and the lack of a vision, a common vision for the Department of Education and Scientific Research, the gaps that exist between in the sector of education between the different geographic territories. And in order to overcome those challenges, many solutions can be adopted. When it comes to coordination, one, we need to have an integrated management system that will allow for reliable and relevant data that respects personal and confidential information. So there is an initiative that is being implemented by the ADD, the Digital Development Agency, as well as the Ministry of Education and Scientific Research, to make sure that the data is compatible between the different platforms. The second point is a concerted documentation of the data. Now regarding financing, which is an issue, so we should follow a logic or rationale of investment and not just having to spend the current budget. In order to do so, we need to have a mobilization of funds through PPPs, through international cooperation, through donors, and also this can be done through the RAC of the enterprises and CSR. The second one, startups or encouraging startups for capacity building for the human capital. And thank you.
Merci, M. Khadiri.
Thank you, Mr. Qadiri. Madame Imahlatu for the second group. Thank you. Mr. President, Mrs. President of the Higher Council of Education of Quebec, ladies and gentlemen, after identifying the different challenges that we face in this digital transformation in the field of education, our group has a few proposals to overcome those challenges. These are ambitious and are looking to answer the current needs while looking at the future. One, we need to have a national framework that rationalizes the investments, a framework that puts the human being, the human capital, at the center of every decision. But this have to be done gradually through different phases and taking time in order to reach its optimal point. This is based into 4 pillars. One, having digital content that is relevant to the education system in Morocco. The second pillar is providing IT equipment for digital inclusion at the national level. The third point is to mobilize the national actors, more specifically the professors and teachers, the faculty. The fourth pillar is to develop a new digital culture, because in order for this transformation to be successful, it needs to be accepted by all. So in order to implement this framework, there needs to be a steering organization that will have to coordinate all stakeholders, monitor the development, but also measure and do the assessment of the impact. In order to guarantee the safety of the data, it is important to have national cloud and national servers. So it is important to have this strategic infrastructure with national connectivity to allow efficient connection. We also need to integrate digital in all pedagogical programs and in all curriculum in order to reach this education transformation. And thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Platou. J'invite pour la dernière institution, pour le dernier groupe, Monsieur Nicolas Albouz. À vous la parole.
Merci. Merci, on a fait un petit changement de rapporteur. Merci, Président, une fois encore, de nous accueillir. Donc, un premier sujet qui a été abordé, qui était au sujet de l'interopérabilité et de l'intégration des systèmes. Alors, donc, on a évoqué le fait qu'il y avait la loi cadre, en fait, qui offre un outil justement juridique qui permet d'avancer là-dessus, mais qu'il y a peut-être un manque, ou en tout cas, il serait intéressant d'avoir une volonté politique assez forte pour pouvoir avancer sur ce sujet, et donc pour pouvoir avoir une unification des différents systèmes, et aussi assurer une cohésion, pour être certain que, effectivement, tous les différents départements du secteur éducatif au niveau du Maroc puissent être en mesure d'accompagner ce projet d'unification en fait, d'un système. Il faut aussi tenir compte de l'existant. Il y a des choses qui fonctionnent et on ne peut pas juste arrêter du jour au lendemain et partir sur quelque chose de nouveau. Il est important d'assurer une certaine continuité. Donc ça, c'est un point qui a été évoqué. Il y a un projet qui est en cours, qui est un projet de référentiel, qui permet d'avoir effectivement un même langage autour des différentes composantes du secteur éducatif au Maroc. Et donc, ça apporte, bien entendu, la capacité ensuite de passer sur ce qui pourrait être un data lake, donc un lac de données, pour pouvoir justement avoir des données cohérentes, comparables entre les différents départements. Donc ça, c'était un premier point sur l'interopérabilité. On a parlé de la disparité d'Internet. Et là, je pense qu'il y a des choses qui sont assez intéressantes. Le Maroc est justement en phase d'avancer sur la 5G. On sait que certains opérateurs téléphoniques vont être intéressés pour justement avoir cet avantage compétitif autour de la 5G. Et peut-être que ça peut être le moment de dire, bah, en fait, si vous êtes le partenaire que l'on sélectionne pour avancer sur ce chantier-là, vous avez aussi une obligation d'améliorer le maillage et la couverture Internet sur l'ensemble du territoire en comprenant les zones blanches. Donc c'est un point qui me semble assez intéressant là-dessus. Un autre aspect qui est aussi utilisé dans pas mal des pays du continent concerne Starlink et un accord avec Starlink qui permet notamment d'avoir une couverture Internet. Et donc pour le coup, c'est une couverture satellitaire qui permet donc d'éviter les zones blanches. Un troisième point qui était autour de l'entretien et du support du matériel existant. Donc on a le sentiment qu'il faut peut-être une implication plus importante des collectivités territoriales.
Involvement that is more important for the local government in order to have the necessary resources. There is a partnership with the private sector that can also be very interesting and have some agreements that are based on results. The last point that is also sensitive, we try to not talk too much about the costs, but sustainable development of projects. So regarding the budgetary constraints, so we talked about the perception that some learning platforms are free because they are open source, but is the open source really free? When we do a cost analysis and we compare the investment in terms of human resources in logistics in middleware, so the open source can have a cost that is higher than else. And thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Albouz.
Thank you, Ms. Nicolas. So before giving the floor to the president, I would like to invite Mrs. Mariana Alcalay, specialist of the education program for the UNESCO office for the Maghreb, for a word from the UNESCO.
Bon après-midi, Monsieur le Président.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon to audience. First, I would like to apologize on behalf of our director. He was with us outside, and you saw him, but he had an emergency, had to leave, and could not make it for this closing ceremony. So we would like to express our gratitude from UNESCO to you, Mr. President.
Cet accueil chaleureux,
This warm welcome and your commitment to the collaboration between our two institutions is a solid foundation and necessary foundation for the success of our common work. My thanks to the experts, to the focal points, to the technical partners who supported each phase of this workshop with a full devotion. I would also like to thank our General Director for his opening remarks when he talked about two important moments for education globally. So the summit of the United States in 2022, where it was said that we need to rethink education, and then the digital pact of 2024 that is adopted in the summit of the United Nations for the future, that puts technology as the necessary leverage for a sustainable and inclusive development while focusing on the social gaps. So we're all aware that digital transformation of education is the opportunity to enrich the teaching practices and learning practices, opening a new horizons for education. When we talk about digital transformation and when it is done the right way, it can become a catalyzer for more inclusive education by widening access to knowledge, improving the education system, and improving the learning results. And don't leave anyone behind. This is the motto of the 2020-2030 vision. So I would like to share with you an important announcement. Tomorrow, as many of you knew it already, and you will be coming with us as well, the regional office of UNESCO is launching in Rabat the first edition of a series of an annual publications which is about looking at the education in the Maghreb. So the first volume will be about digital transformation on the education systems in the whole region, the Maghreb region. It looks at the efforts that are deployed by the authorities with the support of the private and public partners, looking at the education content, the pedagogical content, the cost, the connectivity, and the data. So we're talking here about the same 6 pillars. So this report will cover all 5 countries of the region. It will not be comparing one against the other, but we will, for each country, present all 6 dimensions. So it will be an interesting report to look at. And for those who will be with us tomorrow, I thank you in advance for joining us. Thank you for your commitment throughout this workshop. And together, we will keep on working together to move forward and help for our education system to answer the needs of our society. Thank you to all of you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين.
In the name of God Almighty, and prayer be upon the Prophet and his companions, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, it is with a lot of pleasure that I looked and monitored the work of this workshop that covered a topic that is very important for our education system, education and scientific research, which is digital transformation. And here I would like to thank UNESCO for its collaboration with the Council, a collaboration that keeps on growing and that will be strengthened in this issue of digital transformation. So I invite you to double all your efforts to add and deploy more activities to exchange more your expertise and organize more workshops in this field. The digital transformation, including the digital transformation, is important for our country that has to continue this more specifically in the education system for the curriculum, learning, governance, and management of the different education sectors. Here, I would like to underline that some of the challenges that we mentioned in the 3 groups, there are the gaps between the geographic territories. There is a huge difference between urban, rural, and peri-urban, but there is also an issue when it comes to the finance source. So finance based on the public budget shows that it has limits and it's not sufficient. So we have to be innovative and to come up with new ideas on how to get investments and finance, most specifically through PPPs.
Nous sommes appelés
So we are all called here to use collective intelligence when it comes to investment for acquiring equipment, but also purchasing new equipment. And we also need to develop our human capital and also be able to assess the public policies. Here we're talking about the education system policies, but we also need to strengthen our capacity in assessing public policies in all sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, my sincere thanks for your contribution in today's discussions, and I wish you good luck moving forward. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. President. And now I would like to invite you for a group picture right here.